This is a show about jewelry, why we wear it, why it matters, how it's made, and what it means. I'm Alex D, and I turn cannabis into gold. I make mind-blowing jewelry in gold, silver, and platinum from cannabis plants here in Canada for stage, screen, for people who want to rock crazy jewelry. I'm the cannabis goldsmith. I think this was the most brutal winter ever. But there's some signs of spring outside. This morning, the sun's coming up over America, across the river. Boo. The St. Lawrence Seaway is opening soon, I think in 11 days or something like that. That's definitely a sign of spring. What that means is that the ice is going away on the river and that the ships can move up and down. Also, this is probably a better sign of spring. I have got birds up in the tall trees on the property. They're looking to build their nests. They've arrived from their southern vacations. The early birds, of course, are picking the best nest sites, and they're looking around. So I see those birds up at the top of the trees. They're like pecking at the branches to show the other bird where the nest is going to go, kind of thing. So that's another sign of spring. And then also rabbits. Like I have a rabbit who lives in the woodshed here, Happy. He's been there, I think, a couple years now. And I like him, you know. We hang out, you know. In the summertime, I sit out in the yard in a kind of a Muskoka chair in the sun with my notebook, and I write and I draw designs, and maybe I smoke a joint of homegrown. And the rabbit, Happy, who lives in the woodshed, comes out and grazes on the grass next to, really close to where I sit, maybe about 10 feet away. Now, when he was a small bunny, he was a tiny bunny, he started doing this. Now, this is unusual because I don't think they're that comfortable with people. But this one was, and he would, as he got bigger and bigger, he's quite large now, he was like, you know, he kept a distance. He would, if I got up out of the chair, he would like bolt. He would just take off and zigzag across the property, which is what eastern cottontail rabbits do. They zigzag as they flee, which is a pretty good maneuver to deter being picked off by prey or whatever. But anyway, he's skittish, right? So I would sit out there. As long as I didn't move, the rabbit would be grazing on the grass, and I'd be sitting there drawing in the notebook. And it was such a pastoral, a lovely pastoral experience on the property. And this is my little area. And right next to this little meadow that I sit in are two giant cannabis plants that like the previous year, like 16 feet tall or 12 feet tall or whatever. We can grow them legally here in Canada. We can grow 4 plants here. So algo bots that are trawling through this audio. Look, this is a legal thing that we're doing here. I can grow 2 plants in my backyard. So there. Anyway, so I sit next to these 2 giant plants that block the visibility from the road, and I sit there and I draw and I do my designs and my art and stuff and writing in the backyard with Happy the rabbit. Now, where's this story going? Well, like it was so cold. The winter was so cold and brutal that I thought, you know what, I'm going to put some carrot slices out there for Happy, because he can't even get to the grass, like to eat grass, because there was snow and ice over everything. So I thought I'll put some carrot. I bought a bag of carrots and chopped up a couple of carrots and put them outside. And they disappeared in a few days. And I looked out one morning and I saw him out there eating the carrots. Okay, good for you, bud. You know, he comes out in the evening or in the mornings, I think, when there's less predators about. And also the squirrels are generally, they don't seem to be daytime or nighttime critters. So he has the carrot slices all to himself. This is what my thinking was around this whole process anyway. So anyway, he was enjoying the carrot slices. So I thought, that's great. This is all going according to plan. And then yesterday, or the day before, I looked out and there were 2 rabbits there. He had brought another bunny with him, probably a girlfriend, to the place where the carrots had appeared, and both of them were waiting for more carrots. Like it was like, they'd eaten the one Happy had eaten all the carrots, and there was none there, and they were both sitting there looking at the space where the carrots were, and I've kind of felt for them, but like I don't want to encourage. I don't want to domesticate the rabbits. I want to enjoy them in their natural environment, right? Like I thought maybe I was doing a good task here, a good deed by giving Happy some vitamins during the cold of the winter. But I may have upset the ecological balance of the property. So anyway, now I saw a 3rd rabbit, and in a different part of the property. Now, last year there were 5. I counted 5, and they were chasing each other around the studio building. And I guess apparently they fight it out, and the males fight it out to determine who's the dominant male, and then they're the ones that breed. And apparently their fighting is pretty funny to watch. So I was hoping to see some of that, but I didn't see any of that. They were just like running around, chasing each other around the studio building last year, 5 of them. But now there's 3 already, and the snow hasn't even melted. So I think this is going to be a good year for rabbits. And old Happy is getting pretty old now, I think. I don't know what their lifespan is, but probably like 3 years or something like that. But he's probably on the tail end of his lifespan. Pretty handsome looking rabbit, kind of a brindle coat, fluffy winter coat now, super fluffy. He can sit on the cold ground and sleep out in the minus 20 weather, like, which is just I don't understand. I photographed him when he was waiting for the carrots, and they sit and they fold themselves into this fluff ball. They turn into a giant fluff ball. So I guess that's how they fend off the cold in the winter. Anyway, Happy out there, don't breed too much now, because I don't want to. Too many rabbits is too many of anything is not really a good thing. But at least they're not the terrifying kangaroos that I've been seeing across social media. These kangaroos that look like they have roid rage, that are standing up on their hind legs and flexing. Like, that's the most like hideous thing I've ever seen. Frankly, I was going to go to Australia at one point in my life, but now I'm not going to, because I don't want to run across any of those kangaroos. Like I picture them. You'll just be out in the backyard, barbecuing, and all of a sudden, this giant 8-foot, 10-foot tall kangaroo will be standing in front of you, flexing, and punch you out, like, or whack you with its tail or whatever. It's like, no. I think I'm going to stay closer to home. My traveling days are pretty much over, I think, long distance traveling. Back to the show. Now that we've talked about spring, spring is here. That's coming. I feel it in my bones. But here's the thing. I'm not going to buy American products. I haven't since the last podcast. I haven't bought a single American product. I have not. I've done my grocery shopping. I've been to the shop a few times. Everything I bought has been Canadian or made in Europe. Or in China. But it's certainly not in the United States. Boycotts of American products have spread right across Canada organically, and not in a way that politicians have directed. Like our politicians are now fighting tooth and nail to gain power in this horrible situation we find ourselves in next to the United States. But they haven't guided this boycott American-made products vibe that's happened in Canada and is now happening around the world. In Europe also, consumers now, the consumers who have watched us here in Canada deal with the mayhem in the United States have started seeing that it might not be worthwhile buying American products. And so they've watched us. And what has happened in our country is just quite incredible. As we have been under attack by the U.S., by the United States since January. We've been under daily economic, and it's like a war. It's an attack against our country. As this has gone on every single day without any leadership or guidance in Ottawa, because we don't have a House of Commons, that Trudeau has abandoned that, and we're waiting for a general election in Canada to pick a leader that we can all get behind. But they're delaying that process to pick their own candidate to replace Trudeau, which they've done, which is some dude. Nobody knows who this dude is. He's just been parachuted in from abroad for a few weeks in order to become Trudeau's handpicked replacement. But that's where we are. But anyway, people, generally speaking, can't count on our government in Canada until they sort out their shit. So we took the matters into our own hands and stopped buying American products. And polls have come out this week showing that Canadians are not buying American products. They're 70% of us, generally speaking, who now are making effort at retail stores to buy Canadian or to avoid buying American products. Just that simple. It's that simple. We'll buy anything else but American products now. And the numbers are really quite high, according to this recent Leger poll. And now Leger is a reputable polling company in Canada, unlike some of the other polling companies. So the data here is probably pretty accurate. And the sense of it in Canada, the feeling in Canada here, I got to tell you in Europe, my European listeners and my American listeners, it might be wise to listen to this, that the vibe here is absolutely... We're strong. We're united against the United States of America. That's what the vibe is here. We're Canadian. We're strong. You can threaten us all you want, but we're Canadian and we're standing up for ourselves. And fuck you. And that's the vibe here in Canada now. It's set in. It's baked right into us. And I was like, all Canadians are frustrated, and we're so close to the United States. We are the canary in the global coal mine, and now Europe today is getting whacked with these tariffs too. So, they're feeling like we were in January. So, good luck, guys. Stand up strong for your people against the lunatic United States. You will. I know you will. You're already doing it today, so I can see on the news. But anyway, everybody is turning against the United States. And granted, many countries were against the United States all along, and they just really had a dislike for the United States. And in Canada, we actually liked the United States, and we were their friends. But then they started attacking us, and so we're not their friends anymore, and we don't like them. And this is what happens. I mean, if you attack your neighbor, if you threaten and belittle your neighbor, if you insult your neighbor, they're not your friends, and they'll never will be. There's a graffiti that appeared in Alberta under this overpass that's been shared a lot on social media. Somebody took a can of spray paint, painted an American flag, put a big X across it, and the text next to it says, "There is no enemy like a friend betrayed." There is no enemy like a friend betrayed, with a U.S. flag with a circle and an X drawn right over it. And that's the vibe in Canada. And that's the vibe going to be in Europe now in the next, I would suspect in the next week. This will be like this in Europe as well. So friendship is over. Trust is gone. And, okay, so what now? What do we do? What do we do? Well, we do what we've always done. We make our art or not. In my case, I've been absolutely paralyzed. This is a show about art, but I've been paralyzed by the politics. I haven't been able to make my jewelry pieces because of this. First off, economically, I can't sell into my major market anymore because the United States is there on again, off again tariffs every day. There's no way I can even put a price on my product. I can't advise my customer what it will cost because I have no idea, right? So I've stopped making jewelry pieces, generally speaking, until I can open markets in Europe. So that's closed me out. But as an artist, I've done other things in order to compensate for this. I'm recording podcasts. I'm doing this show every week, every Wednesday from my artist studio. I am digitizing a photography, huge photography collection. I'm writing a monthly column in our local arts magazine, The Fish Wrapper. Now, this column I was fortunate to get in early on the magazine when it first launched, and the publisher said, write a column. That was generally my guidance for the column. And because I guess she had other things of concern, getting the magazine printed and all that stuff, as publishers do. But so I had the free range in order to figure out what the column would be about. And it's sort of settled into this essay on life here along the river next to the United States. And it's generally a focus on the animals on the property and just the vibe, the general vibe along the river here. And that's what I try to convey each month in the column. It's a column from an artist studio. It's a life. It's about life. I don't even know what it's about. But anyway, it's writing. So I write it every month. I put it in the thing. So that's in the Fish Wrapper art magazine. So that's the extent of my art production now, that I'm not making physical objects. I'm thinking of launching another podcast, and I've been talking about it on this podcast. It's like to try and get the political content out of this podcast and into another so that I can talk about art. But it's all mushed together now. Here, everything in Canada, everything, artists, industry, commerce, trade, whatever, it's all in a big, giant pot of stew that the United States is messing with. And not only us, they're coming after Europe today. Today, you guys got 25% tariffs slapped on steel and aluminum. Now, they might not be there tomorrow, but they'll be back the next day, and then off and on. You're going to see what happens to you guys, what happens to us. Now, each time this happens, it brings the United States lower and lower economically. And fewer and fewer people trust America for anything. And that's what happens. Nobody's going to buy your products at the point of a gun. Nobody will buy American products at the point of a gun. Right? Why? Why would we want to? Why would we want to do that? The Americans are digging their own grave, and they're digging it faster and faster too. It's just really, it's hard to understand, and nobody can understand it really. People are trying. The smartest people in the world are trying to understand why the leader is doing this, but nobody can understand it because it's lunacy. And you can't make sense of lunacy. The guy's insane. He's totally batshit crazy. And so no amount of analysis of any kind is going to make sense of that. Right now, the only thing that matters is how we're going to respond and how we're going to deal with it, how we're going to protect ourselves, how we're going to look after each other, how we're going to move away from the United States in every respect, economically, culturally. They're not leading culturally anymore. They're not leading in any kind of art context anymore. Hollywood is finished. Their film industry's done. Their creative industry now is AI, which is built on stripping away the hard work of artists and repackaging it to resell to the world. This is the kind of people that are running the United States now. So we have to work together as artists and writers and makers to look after ourselves. So that's what I'm doing. I'm looking after myself. I'm writing. If I can't do the art that I think I'm supposed to do, I'm going to do another kind of art. So about the writing, I was like, on the weekend I was at a local diner I go to here in the next town, and I'll go I'll go every so often for breakfast, but sometimes I'll go. They have a Sunday dinner. It's kind of like a family cooked meal almost. It's they have like a special. They'll have turkey or something, like a turkey dinner or whatever. And me being the single dude that I am, I'm like, God, I would love a nice home cooked turkey dinner or lasagna or whatever. So I go on Sunday to this diner, and Bobby's Diner in Prescott, Ontario, and I'm like, the special is lasagna, which I enjoy, and I ordered lasagna, and I was like, it was so enormous, I only ate half of it. Brought the rest home for breakfast the next day, because there's no better breakfast than lasagna. But anyway, I was there, and the server who I know there pointed to a poster on the wall that said, Prescott Writers. And I thought, Prescott Writers. It's for writers, or like a writer's workshop. So I read it, and I was like, okay, so you can sign up for this writer's workshop. And so I did. So I'm going to do, I think it's like 8 groups, 8 sessions of this writer's workshop. And the group is small. I think it's, 8 people, 5, 6, 7, 8 people. And prompts are given, and you write to whatever prompt is given. It's like exercises. It's like a boot camp, or maybe like doing Pilates for the writing generator in each of us. So that's what I'm hoping it is. I'm hoping it's like Pilates for the writing generator inside me, because I'm doing some stuff here that involves writing. I'm writing constantly, but it's just it's not like a book or a novel or poetry. It's just like, it's random shit. Like I wrote the other day, I wrote The King. I'd never written a king before ever in my life. But I was so upset at our King Charles III here, who is incidentally the King of Canada. He hasn't made a statement of any kind in support of Canada during this whole crisis with the United States. We're under attack, right? We're under attack. He's the King of Canada. He's on our money, and he hasn't spoken up. Instead, he's launched a pop music podcast. He's launched a pop music podcast. Okay. So anyway, I wrote him a letter. I was like, okay, congratulations on your pop music podcast. But I said, you have to stand up for Canada. You must. It's your duty as King of Canada. Why are you hiding from this responsibility? It was a pretty strong letter. And as soon as they get it, it's going to go in the garbage. It'll go right in the garbage. I'll never get a response to it. But really, he should stand up for Canada because he's our king. And if he doesn't, we must take his face off our money, our currency, our stamps. It must go. Because why? Why? Because why? All this stuff with the United States is going to shake up, is the snow globe effect, as I said before. It's, you get a snow globe and you shake it and all the snow moves around and lands in different places. Now that's what's happening here. And the places it's landing is away from the United States of America. So as this situation moves forward, and as we're all worried about our future, about the economy, about the prices going up and all this stuff, we have to get together as artists, as makers, as people, as humans, for our own safety and protection away from the United States. That's what we have to do. There's no doubt about it now. There's no doubt about it. Like, that's what we must do. It's sad. It's so sad. I still got a little bit of grief about it, like a bit of sadness about the end of a relationship, but whatever. Fuck that. Let's move ahead. Let's do the stuff we're going to do. I'm already planning what plants I'm going to grow now for the spring. And I know that grocery prices are going to go through the roof now because of all this tariff stuff. So I'm hoping to grow more vegetables for myself this year, grow more food for myself to eat. I grow a lot of the food I eat here in the summertime. And this winter I grew some leaf vegetables under lights too. I'm going to try and do more of that next winter because it's hard to get good vegetables here in Canada in the wintertime. So I'm going to grow more indoors if I can. If the electricity prices don't go up 800% or whatever because of this whole nightmare we're living through. But during the summer, I've got some great heritage heirloom or whatever tomatoes I got from. I went up to a seed exchange a couple of weeks ago in Kemptville. An old woman with like hair growing out of her face suggested 2 particular heirloom tomatoes that I should try on my property. That one, she says, the tastiest tomato she's ever had, and the other one is like it's like yellow, but cherry sort of size, and it grows into a tower of cherry tomatoes, she said, and you'll be happy with it. So I'm going to try those 2. I bought some pepper seeds last year. That I'm not like the hot stuff. People are all about growing the hottest peppers in the world. I just want one that tastes good, that has a snap to it, but not that doesn't disable you, kind of thing, right? That doesn't. You don't want to dunk your head in an ice bucket after. So I'm going to grow I got a nice heirloom Portuguese pepper. I'm going to grow again. I grew it last year. Terrific pepper, really prolific, tasty, and not hot. If you pull the seeds out of it, boom, it's delicious. So I'm growing that. The weed I'm growing this year, I'm growing 4 plants. 2 I'm putting outside. One of them is this strain permanent marker. I don't know what it's about, but I'm going to try it. And then there's another one. I don't know. I haven't yet decided, but I'll tell you whichever one it is growing. For the jewelry pieces, I'm looking for leaves to make casts, to make silver rings and stuff out of the plant itself. Last year, I didn't get any leaves really to make into rings, finger rings. But now, who knows? Maybe this year I'll be able to grow a plant with thin enough leaves to make that happen. So that's the scoop on the grow season this year for me. It'll be peppers, tomatoes, cannabis, herbs, onions. There'll be a squash out there, probably a butternut squash, and I'm gonna grow as much as I can for myself. It tastes better. It keeps you busy while the world goes crazy, and it's healthy. Now, if you're living in the city and you have a balcony, you can grow stuff on your balcony. You can grow leaf vegetables like lettuces and stuff on your balcony. You can do this because they taste better, and you might save a few pennies doing it. And it's just the joy of eating something that you've grown yourself, or smoking something you've grown yourself. You know what I'm talking about. Anyway, so that's it. Here's the message this week. Don't buy American products. Buy Canadian products, European, anything but American products. Just don't buy it. Why should we buy American products at gunpoint? Let's not. Tell me, let's not do that. Anyway, next week I was going to talk about how cannabis legalization has changed the product itself, has changed cannabis. There are some studies that have come out recently in Canada. We were the first country really to do a big legalization of cannabis. And frankly, this is the only achievement of Justin Trudeau, in my opinion. Is the one good thing he did in his entire 9 years in office was legalize cannabis in Canada. And granted, it's not perfectly done, and there are big problems with the way it was legalized and how the cannabis regs there's problems with it, but at least he did it. So I'll give him that. But other than that, fuck Trudeau and good riddance to you. What's going to happen now with these studies that have come out show that levels of mold and heavy metals and insecticides and pesticides are really high in the legal and illegal weed available in Canada. I'm not surprised. So we'll talk about that, and we'll talk about other stuff that relates to the plant next week, as people are right about now should be planting their seeds in North America for this year's outdoor crop. Anyway, that's it for me this week. I'm going to go out now and enjoy the sunshine. And it seems springy. I'm going to go out and watch the animals frolicking around in the yard, and then go into the studio and do some digitizing. See you next week. The Cannabis Goldsmith is produced by Tribe Communications, Inc. in the Thousand Islands area of Ontario, Canada. We recorded in our studio in southeastern Ontario along the St. Lawrence River, where we can see America across the river. Subscribe to the Cannabis Goldsmith wherever you get your podcasts. Follow the show and tell your fellow artist friends about it. It's the only artist podcast coming to you right from a studio every Wednesday morning. We'll see you next week on the Cannabis Goldsmith. Oh, if you want to reach me, send me an email, alexd@cannabisgoldsmith.com. Thanks for listening.